Have you ever just, stopped to think that the very way we track time, the beginning of our year, might not be quite as simple as it seems?
Mm.
Like, what if there are these ancient secrets, almost hidden clues, right there in our calendar?
Yeah, hidden in plain sight.
Exactly. That's the really intriguing idea we're diving into today.
Okay.
So our mission here is to go through some fascinating material we've gathered. We've got bits from the true New Year, decoding the calendar's ancient truths, and also a pretty revealing chat with an AI model.
Interesting mix.
Yeah. And we want to unpack the history of our calendar, look at some surprising language clues, and, well, reveal why the true New Year might be really different from the one you probably celebrate. We're kind of hunting for this hidden evidence.
Right. And it's not just about listing dates and names. It's more about shifting how we perceive time itself.
How so?
Well, we'll explore how the calendar we use now isn't necessarily this organic, natural cycle it kind of presents itself as. We'll look at how big historical shifts really changed our understanding of time. And crucially, how those changes left behind these linguistic echoes, almost like fossils in our language, that tell a much older story.
Okay, let's jump right in it. A core claim from our sources is pretty provocative. It says the calendar we use today is, in a way, artificial, and that December 31st isn't the real end of the year. I mean, that's a bold statement. What's the thinking behind that?
No, the sources we looked at argue that our current calendar wasn't just adopted for, say, accuracy. It was adopted, they claim, to strengthen what's described as a Eurocentric paradigm.
Right, a specific worldview.
Exactly. And this is put in contrast with this incredibly long tradition. Some accounts mention maybe 7,000 years of a Turkic calendar system.
Wow, 7,000 years.
Yeah, a really long-standing way of understanding time, tied closely to nature's cycles. And this older tradition consistently marked the new year around March 21st.
Okay, and this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The clues hidden in just everyday language.
Ah, the month names.
Yes. We know the Latin roots. Septem is 7, Octolate 8, Novem 9, Decem 10.
Right.
But then, how on earth is September the 9th month? October the 10th, November the 11th, and December the 12th. Their names literally mean 7, 8, 9, and 10.
It's a fantastic point. It's this glaring inconsistency, isn't it?
Totally.
And it points directly back to history. The original Roman calendar did start in March. Martius, they called it.
Oh, yeah.
So if March was month 1, then logically September was the 7th month, October was the 8th, November the 9th, and December the 10th. It just makes sense.
And the others followed.
Yep. April was 2, May 3, June 4, July 5, August 6, and then that pushes January to become the 11th month and February the 12th, the last one.
So the names just stuck.
Exactly. They're like perfect linguistic fossils. They never got updated even when the whole starting point of the year was shifted. It's quite amazing, really.
So if March was the original first month, what was that ancient New Year celebration like? The one tied to nature?
Well, that aligns beautifully with Nowruz. You might also know it as Nowruz. It's the Persian New Year, but its roots go deep into wider Central Asian and Turkic traditions. It's celebrated right around the spring equinox, usually March 21st.
The timing seems key.
Absolutely. It's all about rebirth, new life, a fresh start, completely tied to the awakening of nature in spring. And the name itself, Nowruz, literally translates to new day.
New day, Navnu, Ruse Day.
Precisely, in Persian. And that meaning, that concept, echoes across Turkic languages too. Uzbek, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Azeri, Turkmen. It shows how fundamental this new day idea was across cultures.
It wasn't just a Roman or Persian thing then.
Not at all. If you look broader, similar spring New Years were common in ancient Babylon, Iran, across various steppe cultures, and these actually predate the Roman calendar, at least in written records.
Right.
Even think about the Jewish calendar. The religious first month, Nisan, which is when Passover falls, that starts in the spring too. It keeps pointing back to this same connection with the agricultural cycle, with the rhythm of the earth.
So Navuz is this living example of that spring New Year. But you mentioned more linguistic clues. These threads in language itself.
Yes, beyond just the month names.
Our sources highlighted something really fascinating, almost unbelievable. A similarity between the Yakut word set for 7 and the French sept.
Ah, right. That's a great example used to illustrate these potentially very deep linguistic roots.
So Yakut is Turkic.
Yes, related to Turkish yeti. And French sept comes from Latin septum, obviously. Finding such a similar sound for the same number across language families that are geographically so far apart Well, it suggests a very ancient connection.
Could it be borrowing? Or just coincidence?
Linguists debate that. Could be borrowing from millennia ago, could be a remarkable coincidence stemming from even older proto-languages. But it serves as another hint, another echo.
Like the month names.
Exactly. Just like how our word decade, meaning 10 years, clearly echoes decem, Latin for 10. It reinforces that December really was literally the 10th month in that older system. These little linguistic fossils are everywhere if you look.
Okay, so we have this strong case for a calendar aligned with nature, starting in spring, supported by traditions like Nowruz and these linguistic clues. Why did it change? What drove the shift away from the spring equinox?
Right. That brings us to what's often called the calendar reform. It happened in stages. First, you had Julius Caesar.
The Julian calendar.
Correct. In 46 BCE, he moved the start of the year to January 1st. Now, the reasons seem largely practical, political even. It was to align the calendar year with the Roman civil year, the terms of elected officials.
So not about nature, more about administration.
Pretty much. Then, much later, you get the Gregorian calendar in 1582. This was Pope Gregory III, a Christian reform.
And they kept January 1st.
They did. The goal then was stated as achieving political and religious unity, basically standardizing dates, especially for Christian festivals like Easter, across Catholic countries, aligning with Roman Catholic tradition.
And this is where the Eurocentric paradigm idea comes back in.
Yes, according to the sources. The argument is that these changes, particularly the Gregorian reform, which became dominant globally through European influence, effectively strengthened a Eurocentric paradigm.
Meaning it sort of pushed aside other ways of marking time?
That's the interpretation offered,
Right.
that it centralized a specific European-derived way of structuring time, often supplanting older indigenous calendars that were more directly tied to nature's rhythms. It prioritized political and religious alignment over, say, the vernal equinox.
So we've got the linguistic fossils, the enduring celebrations like Nowruz, and then these major historical shifts driven by politics and religion. Our sources mention one more piece, something called the Odam Tili theory. How does that fit into this whole picture? What does it add?
The Odam Tili theory. It tries to go even deeper, suggesting a fundamental link between ancient sounds, words, rituals, and how humans first perceive the world. It argues that our earliest languages and traditions weren't arbitrary. They supposedly arose directly from observing nature's cycles, the sun, the stars, the seasons, as if nature itself was the first dictionary, the first calendar.
Interesting. So it's trying to explain why the spring equinox felt so right as a starting point.
Exactly. From this perspective, Nowruz isn't just a tradition, it's powerful because it taps into that primal human instinct to align our sense of time with natural balance, that moment the equinox represents, when light and dark are equal. It suggests this alignment feels more fundamental than, say, a date chosen for political convenience.
Does the theory offer a specific quote or idea on this?
Yes, there's a line that puts it quite poetically. Hidden in the calendar's broken numbers is the memory of a time when humans looked at the sun and stars, not at clocks and kings, to begin anew.
Wow. That really brings it together. Broken numbers, referring to September being the 9th month, etc.
Precisely. Those inconsistencies are seen as echoes of a time before those political or administrative shifts happened.
Okay, this has been quite a deep dive. So wrapping this up for you, our listener, the big takeaway seems to be that the names of our months, these persistent spring celebrations like Nowruz, even the structure of our calendar, they all kind of whisper this story. A story about an older way of keeping time, one deeply connected to nature that was deliberately changed for other reasons.
That's a good summary. The modern calendar, as our sources suggest, might be seen as an invention of power and convenience.
Right.
But the really fascinating insight, perhaps, is that the true New Year, in a sense, still beats in nature's cycle. Nowruz, the new day, serves as this living link, a bridge back to how humanity might have first marked the passage of time, celebrating renewal tied directly to the earth.
So a final thought to leave you with. How does knowing about this hidden history, these clues embedded in something as everyday as our calendar, change how you think about time? Or even how you feel about New Year celebrations?
Yeah, and what other sort of hidden clues or linguistic fossils might be waiting out there in plain sight, just waiting for you to notice? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?